7 signs you are a woman favored by God. Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to speak to the women of faith, the daughters of purpose, the women whom God has chosen to walk in his divine favor. Many wonder, how do I know if I am truly favored by God? Favor is not measured by material wealth or social status. It is a divine mark, an unseen hand that shapes your life in alignment with God's will. If you recognize these 7 signs, then know that you are walking in his favor. You have unshakable faith. A woman favored by God does not waver when the storms of life arise. She walks by faith, not by sight. She trusts in God's promises, even when the situation looks impossible. Like Sarah, who believed for a child in her old age, and like Hannah, who prayed persistently. A favored woman knows that God's word will never return void. Doors open for you unexpected. Divine favor brings divine opportunities. A woman walking in God's favor does not need to strive for every breakthrough doors open that she never knocked on. Ruth was a foreigner in a strange land, yet she found herself gleaning in the right field, noticed by the right person, positioned for the right future. When God's favor is on you, you will walk into blessings you didn't even ask for. You experience supernatural protection. Favor does not mean an absence of trouble, but it does mean divine protection. Look at Esther. She was an orphan in a foreign kingdom, yet God's hand positioned her in the palace for such a time as that. The favor of God does not just elevate you, it preserves you. A woman favored by God is shielded from harm, kept from destruction, and sustained by grace. You carry a spirit of peace and joy. One of the greatest signs of God's favor is not what you have, but what you carry. A favored woman is not easily shaken. When others are anxious, she remains calm. When others are distressed, she walks in divine peace. Why? Because her confidence is in the Lord. She knows that if God is for her, no one can be against her. People are drawn to you for wisdom and encouragement. A woman who carries God's favor does not seek attention, but attention finds her. Like Deborah in the Bible, she is a source of wisdom and leadership. People come to her not for empty words, but for divine counsel. Her words bring life, her presence brings comfort, and her prayers shift situations. You see God's hand in the smallest details. The woman favored by God does not live by coincidence. She sees divine alignment in her life. She recognizes that even the smallest connections, the smallest provisions, and the smallest moments are orchestrated by a mighty God. When others call it luck, she calls it the hand of God. Your life becomes a testimony of God's goodness. Finally, the greatest evidence of favor is that your life is a testimony. A favored woman does not just receive blessings, she becomes a blessing. Her life becomes a reflection of God's goodness, drawing others to him. When people look at her, they see the manifestation of God's power, his grace, and his unshakable love. To every woman listening today, I declare this over you. You are not ordinary. You are chosen. You are positioned. You are highly favored by the Most High. Walk boldly, live righteously, and expect divine favor to manifest in your life. The best is yet to come, because when God's favor is on you, no force in hell can stop you. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a divine mark that separates ordinary existence from extraordinary purpose. It is not given by man, nor is it earned by effort. It is the favor of God. Favor is more than just blessings. It is evidence that heaven has smiled upon you, that your steps are ordered, and that your life is divinely orchestrated. Many desire it, few understand it, but those who walk in it cannot be ignored. When God's favor rests upon a woman, she moves differently, speaks differently, and lives with a supernatural confidence. She is not shaken by circumstances, nor defined by the opinions of others. She carries the presence of God, and her life becomes a testimony of his goodness. This kind of faith is not passive, it is active. It does not sit back and wish, it moves forward in confidence. It is the kind of faith that caused Esther to approach the king, even when it could have cost her life. It is the kind of faith that allowed the woman with the issue of blood to press through the crowd, believing that one touch would change her destiny. A woman of faith does not wait for permission from the world. She moves in the authority of heaven. But understand this, faith is tested. The presence of challenges does not mean the absence of favor. In fact, the testing of faith is proof that favor is working. When a woman is favored, she will face situations that demand faith. The enemy does not attack what is not a threat. The reason the storm rises is because there is greatness within her. But because she knows who she is and whose she is, she does not waver. She does not shrink back. She knows that delay is not denial and that setbacks are setups for something greater. A favored woman speaks life, even when death seems near. She declares victory, even when defeat looks imminent. She does not allow temporary circumstances to determine her eternal destiny. She understands that what God has spoken over her life is more real than anything she sees in the natural. She believes, and because she believes, she receives. Faith is not just something she has. Faith is who she is. It is her identity, her language, and her lifestyle. And because of this, she walks in divine favor that cannot be denied. Doors open for you unexpectedly. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the clearest signs of God's favor on a woman's life is that doors open for her. Doors she never knocked on. Doors she never imagined. Doors that others struggle to enter but swing wide at her arrival. This is not coincidence. This is the supernatural positioning of a woman who walks under divine favor. A favored woman does not chase opportunities. Opportunities chase her. She does not have to manipulate her way into places, because God himself goes before her. The right people appear, the right connections form, and the right resources align at just the right time. She understands that favor is not about striving, it's about positioning. She does not exhaust herself trying to make things happen in her own strength, because she knows that when God is ready to move, nothing can stop his plan. Think of Ruth. She had no status, no wealth, and no plan for her future. Yet she found herself in the right field at the right time with the right person taking notice of her. She did not have to scheme her way into blessing. Favor placed her there. When a woman is favored, she may start in obscurity, but she will not stay there. God has already gone ahead of her, preparing a place where she will be recognized, elevated, and honored. A woman who walks in divine favor experiences acceleration. Where others struggle for years, she progresses in months. Where others face resistance, she moves forward with ease. This does not mean she avoids hard work, but it does mean that her labor is multiplied by grace. She understands that promotion does not come from the east or the west. It comes from God. But here's the key: divine favor does not follow just anyone. It follows those who are aligned with God's purpose. Favor is not random. It is a response to obedience. When a woman is walking in purpose, she does not have to force doors open. They open as she moves forward in faith. Look at Esther. She was an orphan, yet favor positioned her in the palace. She had no royal background, yet favor made her a queen. She did not have to fight for the throne. Favor placed her there. But here is the deeper truth. Favor did not come just for her benefit. It came because she had an assignment. When a woman is favored, it is not just about her. It is about what God wants to accomplish through her. A woman of favor does not panic when doors seem closed, because she understands that not every closed door is rejection. Some are redirection. She does not waste time forcing what is not meant for her, because she knows that when God's time is right, no force in heaven or earth can stop her breakthrough. But favor is not just about personal success. It is about kingdom influence. When God favors a woman, he positions her in places of impact. She finds herself speaking before rulers, sitting at tables of decision makers, and influencing lives she never imagined reaching. This is because favor is not about elevation alone. It is about assignment. She also understands that favor attracts jealousy. When God opens doors for a woman, there will always be those who question why. But she does not waste time explaining herself to people who do not hold her destiny. She knows that favor is not fair. God chooses whom he chooses. The woman of favor walks with humility, knowing that every open door is not her doing, but God's grace. She does not take credit for her success, nor does she become prideful in her elevation. Instead, she remains faithful, knowing that the same God who opened the door is the one who sustains her within it. A woman who is favored walks in expectation. She does not fear lack. She does not fear missed opportunities, and she does not fear failure. She knows that what God has for her cannot be taken, delayed, or denied. She walks boldly, confidently, and faithfully, knowing that divine favor has already gone before her. You experience supernatural protection. Ladies and gentlemen, a woman who is favored by God walks under divine protection. This does not mean that she will never face adversity, but it does mean that no weapon formed against her will prosper. She is shielded by an invisible force, covered by a divine presence that preserves her in the midst of trials, dangers, and attacks. She is not just surviving, she is thriving under the hand of God. This is why a woman of favor moves with confidence. She does not worry about who is plotting against her. She does not spend her time stressing over what might go wrong. She knows that her life is hidden in God. She is not reckless, but she is fearless. She understands that her protection is supernatural, and because of that, she walks in boldness and faith. But make no mistake, favor does not exempt a woman from challenges. If anything, favor attracts challenges. The enemy does not attack what is not a threat. The reason a woman of favor experiences opposition is because she is carrying something valuable. But here is the difference. What destroys others only strengthens her. What is meant to break her only builds her. Because she is covered, nothing the enemy sends against her can succeed. A woman favored by God also carries protection over her household. Her prayers create a spiritual hedge around her children, her marriage, her finances, and everything connected to her. She understands that divine favor is not just for her, it extends to everything she touches. The enemy may try to come in one way, but he will flee 7 ways. She knows that she does not walk alone. Wherever she goes, the presence of God goes with her. Whether in the workplace, in ministry, in business, or in her home, she is surrounded. She understands that protection is not about avoiding trouble. It is about being victorious in the midst of it. A favored woman is covered, she is sustained, she is preserved. And because of this, she walks with the assurance that no matter what comes her way, God has already made a way of escape. She is not just a woman, she is a daughter of the Most High, and nothing can touch what God has declared untouchable. You carry a spirit of peace and joy. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most powerful signs of God's favor on a woman's life is the peace and joy that she carries. This is not an ordinary peace, nor is it a temporary joy. It is not the kind that comes from external circumstances, nor is it dependent on everything going right. This peace is supernatural, and this joy is unshakable. They are not the result of what she has, but of who she knows. A favored woman does not live in fear, stress, or anxiety. She does not allow the pressures of life to weigh her down, nor does she crumble under the weight of uncertainty. She understands that peace is not the absence of trouble. It is the presence of trust. She is not shaken by what she sees because she is anchored in what she knows. She knows that God is in control, and because of that, she rests even in the storm. Look at the women in Scripture who carried divine favor. Mary, the mother of Jesus, was given a word that would change the course of history. Yet, in the face of uncertainty, her response was not fear, it was surrender. Be it unto me according to your word. That is the posture of a woman who carries divine peace. She does not fight against what God is doing. She does not resist his plan. She rests in the assurance that if God spoke it, it will come to pass. A woman of favor does not allow the opinions of others to rob her of her peace. She is not moved by what people say, nor is she controlled by their expectations. She understands that her identity is not found in their approval, but in God's assignment for her life. She does not waste energy defending herself, proving herself, or explaining herself. She knows who she is, and that is enough. But not only does she walk in peace, she carries joy, a joy that cannot be explained. This is not the kind of joy that comes from material things, achievements, or human relationships. It is not based on what she has or what she is experiencing. This joy is rooted in the presence of God. It is the kind of joy that Paul and Silas had while sitting in a prison cell. It is the kind of joy that Nehemiah spoke of when he said, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." It is the kind of joy that cannot be taken away. A favored woman understands that joy is a weapon. She knows that the enemy wants her discouraged, defeated, and distracted. He wants her to focus on what is going wrong so that she forgets what God has already done. But she refuses to give in to negativity. She does not dwell on her problems. She magnifies her God. She chooses to rejoice even in the waiting. She chooses to worship even in the struggle. She chooses to declare victory even when the battle is still raging. This is why people are drawn to a woman of favor. When she walks into a room, she carries an atmosphere of peace. She does not bring drama, confusion, or negativity. She brings stability, confidence, and assurance. Her presence is calming because she carries the presence of God. When others are overwhelmed, she speaks words of faith. When others are fearful, she stands firm. She does not live life reacting to circumstances. She lives life responding to the Spirit. A woman of favor is a thermostat, not a thermometer. A thermometer adjusts to the temperature of the room, but a thermostat sets the temperature. When she walks into an environment, she does not take on the fear, stress, or chaos around her. She shifts the atmosphere with faith, peace, and joy. She carries herself with grace, speaks with wisdom, and moves with confidence because she knows that she is walking under an open heaven. This is the mark of a woman who has found favor with God. She does not just have peace, she is peace. She does not just experience joy, she radiates joy. And because of that, no matter what comes her way, she stands unshaken, unmoved, and you have uncommon wisdom and discernment. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the clearest signs that a woman is favored by God is the wisdom and discernment she carries. She does not navigate life based on emotions, trends, or human reasoning. She moves by divine insight. She sees beyond the surface, hears beyond the noise, and understands beyond what is obvious. She does not just make good decisions, she makes God decisions. A woman of favor does not rush into choices based on pressure or urgency. She understands that not every opportunity is from God, not every open door should be walked through, and not every voice should be followed. She listens before she speaks, prays before she acts, and seeks wisdom before she moves. Because of this, she avoids traps that others fall into, and she walks paths that lead to life, success, and divine purpose. Look at Abigail, a woman whose wisdom preserved an entire household. She was married to a man who was reckless and foolish. Yet she did not react in anger. She responded with wisdom. When danger approached, she acted swiftly, humbly, and strategically. She did not allow emotions to control her decisions. Instead, she allowed wisdom to direct her steps. Because of this, she not only averted disaster, but was later elevated to a position of honor. This is the power of a wise woman. A favored woman does not waste time on unnecessary battles. She does not engage in arguments that lead nowhere, nor does she fight for things that do not align with her purpose. She picks her battles with wisdom, knowing that some fights are distractions while others are assignments. She discerns the difference between the two. She understands that not everything that demands her attention deserves her energy. A woman walking in divine favor can sense when something is not right. She may not always have the details, but her spirit will alert her when something is off. She knows when to walk away, when to stay silent, when to speak, and when to wait. She is not easily deceived, manipulated, or misled because she listens to the voice of wisdom rather than the noise of the world. Wisdom is not just about knowing what to do, it is about knowing when and how to do it. A favored woman understands timing. She does not force things to happen outside of God's season, nor does she delay when it is time to move. She knows that the right thing at the wrong time can still bring destruction. Because of this, she moves with patience and precision. A woman of favor is not just wise in her decisions, she is wise in her words. She does not speak carelessly, nor does she use her mouth to tear down. She understands that her words carry power. When she speaks, her words bring life, healing, and direction. She does not gossip, slander, or entertain negativity because she knows that her words shape her world. But here is the key. Wisdom is not gained through age alone. Wisdom is the result of walking closely with God. A woman of favor seeks wisdom daily. She studies, prays, listens, and surrounds herself with people who sharpen her. She does not rely on yesterday's knowledge for today's decisions. She understands that fresh wisdom is required for every new season. This is why she stands out. When others are confused, she has clarity. When others panic, she remains calm. When others make reckless choices, she moves with strategy and insight. She does not follow the crowd. She follows the voice of God. And because of this, she is positioned for influence, elevation, and lasting impact. The mark of a woman favored by God. When a woman walks in divine favor, it is not something she has to announce. It is something that is seen, felt, and experienced by everyone around her. The favor of God is not just a concept. It is a living reality, a supernatural distinction that sets her apart, guides her steps, and empowers her destiny. She does not chase opportunities, force doors open, or strive for recognition. Instead, favor follows her, doors open for her, and her influence increases because God's hand is upon her life. This favor is not about material wealth or social status. It is about divine positioning. It is about being placed in the right places with the right people at the right time for the right purpose. A woman of favor understands that what she carries is bigger than her personal desires. She is not just favored for herself. She is favored for assignment. Her favor is connected to something greater than her own success. It is about impact, transformation, and the fulfillment of divine purpose. She is not moved by circumstances because she has unshakable faith. She does not allow what she sees to determine what she believes. She speaks to mountains, declares victory in the face of adversity, and stands firm when the world is shaking. Her faith is not in human logic, but in the unfailing promises of God. She does not chase after blessings, blessings chase after her. Doors open that she never knocked on. Opportunities arise that she never expected. She experiences acceleration, divine connections, and supernatural breakthroughs, not because of her efforts alone, but because of the grace and favor of the one who goes before her. She walks through life with supernatural protection. She is covered, shielded, and preserved. The battles that were meant to destroy her only elevate her. The attacks that were meant to break her only build her. No weapon formed against her prospers, because God himself fights for her. She carries peace and joy that the world cannot understand. Even in the midst of challenges, she remains steady. She is not moved by fear, nor does she allow stress to control her life. Her peace is not found in perfect circumstances. It is found in a perfect God. Her joy is not based on what she has. It is based on who she is in him. She operates with uncommon wisdom and discernment. She does not follow the crowd. She follows divine instruction. She does not make reckless decisions. She moves with strategy, patience, and purpose. She speaks with wisdom, walks in discernment, and moves in alignment with God's will. Because of this, she avoids traps, overcomes deception, and is positioned for lasting influence. But hear this, favor is not random. Favor is not accidental. Favor is the result of alignment. God's favor is extended to those who walk in obedience, faith, and purpose. It is not earned through striving, but is received through surrender. It is for those who are willing to trust, willing to follow, and willing to say, Lord, let your will be done. So the question is not, does God want to favor you? The question is, are you positioned to receive his favor? The favor of God is available, but it requires faith, obedience, and a heart that seeks him above all else. If you recognize these signs in your life, rejoice. You are walking under an open heaven. And if you do not yet see them, do not be discouraged. Position yourself, align your heart, and watch how God's hand begins to move in ways beyond your imagination. May you walk boldly, live purposefully, and move confidently in the favor that has been prepared for you. Because when a woman is favored by God, nothing and no one can stop her. Thank you.